Hey guys, and welcome back to our channel, The Upper Hand. I appreciate you guys joining us today. Today we're going to be going over some circumferential measurements of the hand to obtain swelling measurements for your patient.
So you may remember in our last video we covered volumetry, and if you haven't checked that video out, check it out right here. We covered how to perform that assessment. Today we're going to be covering some other ways to measure the upper extremity for edema for cases in which volumetry is contraindicated. So, have any questions? Good. Alright, let's get started.
So like on our last video we did measuring edema in the hand using volumetry. That's obviously not always the best method, especially when you have someone with maybe a burn on their hand or some type of wound. Obviously there's going to be a better way. So another way we can measure edema in the hand is to do the figure of 8 method, and that's what again we'll be showing you today. So the figure of 8 measurement method is a very reliable way to assess the edema in the entire hand. So this isn't the easiest measurement to take, but after today you'll have a better understanding and know exactly how to do that. So of course you're going to need a tape measure, preferably one with centimeters on it. This one here has inches and centimeters. With a hand we always like getting the most accurate measurement as possible, so that's why we like using centimeters. Alright, so let's get right to it. So go ahead and take your tape measure, and we're going to start right at the distal aspect of the ulnar styloid. So again, we always measure in centimeters down to the nearest millimeter. So we're going to put the 0 right over the ulnar styloid. I'm going to start there, go kind of underneath on the anterior portion of the wrist all the way around to the radial styloid. At that point we're going to bring the tape measure across all the way up to the 5th metacarpal phalangeal joint. Here you'll have to kind of pick your patient's hand up. Then you're going to run the tape measure across the volar aspect of the MP joints in the palm. And then once you get around to the metacarpal phalangeal joint, MCP joint of the index finger, you're going to come back and kind of make an X across the dorsum of the hand and wrist and get your measurement once you get back all the way to the ulnar styloid. So with him we've got about 44.5 centimeters. And of course always we're going to measure the opposite side for comparison. And again, this would be good for someone who has a lot of just general swelling in the hand, especially the dorsum of the hand here. Most times that measurement isn't necessary, but it's good to know when you need it. So now let's talk about a very simple and easy circumferential measurement. It's not very reliable though, so stick with us today and we'll give you a few tips on how to obtain the most reliable measurement possible. So the biggest mistake we see with someone trying to take a circumferential measurement with a tape measure is that they're applying too much tension on the skin. Therefore, they're not going to be able to reproduce that in a week when they remeasure that same digit or same hand to assess the presence of edema. So a rule of thumb I like to follow is really to just apply no tension at all. You're just going to lay that tape measure over the skin just so that it's flush with the skin and making sure you're not pulling too tight. And we'll go ahead and show you what that looks like here. Okay, so just for the sake of this example, we're going to say Dylan has a swollen PIP joint of his index finger. So we're going to take the tape measure. Again, we always use the centimeter side, as it will give you the most accurate measurement. You're going to place that underneath the finger. I always measure to where I always measure on the dorsal surface. I find that easier for me. So we're going to put that 0 kind of right in the midline there. It doesn't really matter where that's at. That's just where it's easiest for me to read. and I'm going to take that around, line it up. He's got it's about 6.2 centimeters at that PIP joint. Now, again, one thing we mentioned earlier is it's all about tension here. You want to make sure you're not applying too much tension, because you can see I can get that measurement down to below 6 pretty easily by how tight I'm pulling on that. So again, we just want to not lay that nice and flush over the skin, not applying tension, so that we can always assure that we're getting the most accurate measurement possible. Another typical measurement we can do would be to measure kind of across the MP heads. So when I do that, I just place the tape measure under the patient on the volar aspect of the hand, kind of bring it right around. Again, I kind of like landing right in the middle to get my measurement. Again, no tension, just flush. And we've got 20.4 there. Again, I would measure his other side to kind of see what normal was, so that we could tell if there was any swelling in that area. Another area you can measure, or that we measure typically, is the wrist. Kind of the same principle there. I kind of do the wrist crease, so I'm just slightly distal to the styloids, kind of right in that crease. You can usually find it pretty easily there. Coming right across, getting that measurement there. Okay, so one more measurement we typically would do is if, say, someone had a lot of swelling right in this area. Okay, so it's going to be hard to measure here and then go across to the opposite side and get the exact same area that we're measuring. So a good way to do that is to measure from the ulnar styloid, measure up the forearm, again in centimeters, and say his swelling is right here. That's where I'm going to stop. So we're going to measure 13 centimeters proximal to the ulnar styloid. So we're just going to kind of keep that tape measure there, flip that around, and then get that measurement there. And again, we're right around a little over 25. But now when I go to the opposite side, I'm not just guessing that I'm in this area, because it could make a big difference. So I was just right here. Say I move down about 2 or 3 centimeters and remeasure that, we've got about a 3 or 4 centimeter difference. So obviously you want to make sure you're in the same spot if you're measuring the non-affected side. Alright, so we talked about the ways that we measure and why we measure, specifically for edema. But can you think of another way that we would measure someone circumferentially that does not involve edema? I've got faith in you. I'm going to assume you guessed the right answer, and that's atrophy. So say we're going to take a measurement to assess the atrophy of someone's forearm muscle bulk. You're going to want to measure at the largest part of the forearm, and you can again measure on the unaffected side, and that would give you a good idea if the patient is suffering from any atrophy. So this may give us an idea of how much muscle the patient has lost since the injury, or maybe it will be an indicator of some possible nerve injury that they are suffering from. So that's just a few different ways we like to obtain swelling measurements, just so we can make sure that our patient is progressing. Hey guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch this video. We hope you learned something today and that this was helpful to you in some way.
So you know our goal for this channel, The Upper Hand, is to give you guys the upper hand as you seek to better understand conditions of the upper extremity and just all topics related to occupational therapy in general.
So please take a second out of your day, make sure you like this video and subscribe to this channel so that you can be sure that you're going to see all of our upcoming videos. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next time. You know it'll take me 3 or 4 times to get through this.
We should be like, there you go. So how should I lean? Should it be like this?
Yeah, that's good.
Head's cut off.
There we go. Hey guys, and welcome back to our channel, The Upper Hand. Thank you guys for joining us today. I'm not going to say guys twice. Told you this third time. Third take.
Third time's charm. Extremity for edema. For cases in which velometry is contraindicated. So for, oh man,
sorry,
I think I can restart that last part. Okay.
So that's just a few ways that we assess edema, just so we can kind of keep track and make sure our patients are progressing and that that they are having decreasing edema along Good gosh, I keep trying to add stuff to it and it doesn't matter. I'm just, all right.